Asleep at the Wheel. Written and told by Matt Dixon. The Fat Controller had always relied on steam engines to run on his railway. No matter bought or hired, he saw them to be both reliable and really useful. Edward is one of the oldest engines the Fat Controller had ever owned. Bought in 1915, Edward still boasts the Fat Controller of its reliability. But like any old engines, Edward still needs preparing like overhauls. This stresses the Fat Controller as he would need another engine to take over Edward's shifts while he's at the works. One day, most of the engines were all gathered at Timmer's sheds. "I do hope this doesn't take long," grunted Gordon. "Rubbish," snorted Henry. "Your express isn't even 2 hours' time, so make yourself useful." Gordon was about to reply, but then the Fat Controller entered the yards. "Edward is gone for his overhaul at Groverscape," he called to the engines, "so I need another engine to do Edward's work for the next 2 weeks. But the Fat Controller had already made the arrangements. But he knew which locomotive had to do the shifts, but the engine had no knowledge of this. "James," he announced, "you shall take over Edward's shifts." James was most surprised. "What, me, sir? I'm in a splendid engine with a reputation to keep up. Why me?" "You and Edward are class of mixed traffic engines. You're a suitable choice for roles," the Fat Controller explained. "But, sir," said James unhappily, "why ask Percy? He likes pulling off jobs for an old engine." "Really useful engines don't argue," so the red engine didn't. But when the Fat Controller was out of sight, he blew steam angrily. That night, James slept soundless. But sadly, Edward usually woke up an hour earlier than James, and James was not informed by this. His driver rudely waked him up. "Come on, James, let's be going." James was tired and confused. What's going on? "Edward's job, don't you remember?" "Yes, sir," the Fat Controller said. "Right, first off is branch line route." James groaned. James was not used to waking up an hour early. He was much more grumpy and moanier than usual. James tried to keep up with the next 2 days, but he was much more slower and tired. One day, he pulled his slow goods train into Timmer Station. "Right, there's a good engine," told the driver. "Now you can have a nice long rest." They were first James out of the station. Then brought the coaches into Timmer's yards, where Henry was there. He just came back from the docks. "Hello there," said Henry. "Is the train heavy enough for you, or was it boot late again?" "Shut up," snapped James. "I'm not as slow as you, old square wheels." Henry grinned, and was thinking about the time when Diesel was on the railway. "You seem a little bit too tired than last time I saw you," Henry noticed. "It's the sleep," James replied. "I can't get any of it. I don't know how Edward does it." Henry smiled. "You should feel bad for me. I don't get much sleep, and I still work, no matter what. My shifts down at the docks start early in the evening, even at late at night." James thought for a second. "How do you do it?" "What?" "Get sleep." "Oh," Henry said, "my driver has a method of cooling down the boiler, soothing my firebox. It's like sleeping tablets for trains, he calls it." James grew interest. He listened to Henry whilst his driver and fireman filled up his tender. When they came to the front, James told them, and like James, they liked the idea. "Well, at least you'll be refreshed in the morning," said the fireman. They soon talked to Henry's crew on how they did it. They came back looking confident. "We'll do it tonight," they said. That night, the driver and fireman did the method. They did it properly and carefully, and James soon went to sleep. Both the driver and fireman were pleased, but there was something that James and the crew did not know. James's driver and fireman used the method as Henry was a larger locomotive with a big boiler, so Henry was used to it, but James was a smaller engine and could affect him hard. In the morning, both his driver and fireman couldn't wake him up. Not even a whistle of Gordon. James was in a deep sleep. So there was no time for action, and so the Fat Controller ordered Donald to come back from the Little Western to do Edward's job as well as James's. The Scottish engine enjoyed his day around the island, puffing around doing jobs. He had never done Edward's work before, so it was an experience for him. He didn't mind, of course, but he knew that James would have to pay him and his twin back. That afternoon, James finally woke up, and there the Fat Controller stood outside the sheds. "James, you can take 40 winks now and then, but this is ridiculous," he snapped. James felt awful. "I'm sorry, sir," he yawned. "You will do Donald and Douglas's night shift tonight," the Fat Controller added. "We'll see about doing the twins' work over the summer, but for now, well, sleep on it." James groaned in silence, and even gave a little smile.